34th Major League Baseball season gets into full swing today, and fans never tire of talking, reading, or writing about the game. Among the new baseball books to choose from is Something to Write Home About: Great Baseball Memories in Letters to a Fan. It's a collection of handwritten thoughts about baseball from presidents, players, and celebrities. Its author is Seth Swirsky. Seth, good to see you.
Nice seeing you.
Now, this is actually the third in a trilogy, right?
Yes, it is.
Now, you talk about mythic legends. I think there's probably nobody more mythic than Babe Ruth.
Yes.
And there's a connection between Babe Ruth and George Herbert Walker Bush.
George Bush I went to Yale, and he was the captain of the Yale baseball team, and he was there in 1948 accepting the manuscript of Babe Ruth's autobiography, right before he was going to die. And isn't it incredible that he's alive today, right, George Bush, and we have that connection to history? And that was my point in making the book, to connect history and to also bring us very intimate moments.
The book it's an interesting combination. I mean, it's this book of letters, but it's also almost in a way an art book, because there's some great photos in there, some great illustrations.
I tried to make things called bookumentaries. So you're actually in one page at any given time, and you could sit there for a while and really think about what was happening at that moment.
My favorite story in here is Gates Brown.
Well, Gates Brown is a great story. You know, he's a pinch hitter, and pinch hitters are people that come in the last inning just to get that pinch hit. And he always ate a hot dog while he was sitting on the bench, but this coach called him in an inning early, and he had this hot dog, and he knew if he put it down, then somebody would eat it. So he put it into his pants pocket, goes up to hit, really figuring he didn't want to get a hit. The only time he didn't want to get a hit, he hits a gapper. He's running around first base. He slides into second, and he gets up, and there's mustard and ketchup and hot dog all over him. And he was fined $100 at the time, which was $1,000 now.
The most expensive hot dog he ever ate.
Absolutely, but he didn't want to give up his hot dog.
Never give up your hot dog.
That's right.
You'll give up a base, don't give up the hot dog.
That's exactly right.
You know, in here you've got, not only do you have these letters, but you yourself have a great deal of baseball memorabilia, including that famous ball that dribbled through Bill Buckner's legs in that World Series game.
Yes, I also would like to say that Bill Buckner was a great, great player, and people tend to denigrate him for that bad play. But yes, I have that in my collection, as well as the ball that Reggie Jackson hit for his third home run in the '77 World Series. And if you notice in the book, there's also a bottle of champagne that the Red Sox couldn't open that day.
Right.
They were about to open it, but Bob Costas, in his letter, wrote that no, they just couldn't get that third out. So I found that to be an interesting piece of memorabilia, the champagne that Boston was never able to open.
Now, interestingly, you'd mentioned earlier Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
And you have a picture of him.
Well, on the day that he won the Nobel Peace Prize in November of 1963, he was in such a good mood that he asked a man named Flip Schulke to come over to his house and to take pictures of him with his son playing baseball in the backyard.
How does he celebrate but by playing baseball with his son?
And Al, that's kind of the point of the book. If you took everybody in the table of contents, as you said before, from presidents to people like Paul McCartney to guys like Peter Tork, who used to play in the Monkees and then became a high school baseball coach after the Monkees broke up. Or there's a girl in there named Elizabeth Wrigley Field. She says, I don't even like baseball, but I have this name, and all I want to do is one day I want to meet a guy named Alex Fenway Park so we can share stories, you know?
Before we go, you are not only an author of books, of baseball books, but you're also, you've written some really big pop hits. Tell us a couple of them.
Well, I wrote the song Tell It to My Heart for Taylor Dane and Hit, and Celine Dion and Al Green, and I have a song in the new movie 2 Weeks Notice, and I like writing songs and writing to baseball players.
Right, so you can make different bestseller lists.
That's right, exactly.
The book is called Something to Write Home About. Seth Swirsky, thanks so very much.
Thanks so much, Al.
Only the planes flying over Shea Stadium were flying higher than Seth Swirsky. It's his first time meeting some of his baseball pen pals, like Tom Glavine. During the 1994 players' strike, Swirsky began writing to celebrities and the game's greats, inquiring about their love and memories of the sport. Their responses amazed him.
Before I knew it, Cal Ripken writes me this incredible letter about his relationship with his father and Al Kaline and Ted Williams. All these incredible letters, and that led to a book.
Something to Write Home About is Swirsky's third book featuring such handwritten responses. Former President Bush writing that meeting Babe Ruth at Yale in 1948 is his life's fondest moment, and the sitting president responding too.
It's pretty amazing when you open up a manila envelope that says the White House on the back of it, and out pours a 2-page letter from President Bush, the current president, who was just 6 weeks in office. and he's telling you that he's throwing out the first pitch this year, and then he puts in parentheses, I think it'll be a cut fastball.
Swirsky is a songwriter from Great Neck with more than 20 gold and platinum recordings, including Taylor Dane's Tell It to My Heart. But Swirsky's tireless research brings the most poignant letters from relative unknowns. David Mullaney discussing his grandfather David inventing wiffle ball, and Margaret Joy remembering her brother Ray Chapman, the Cleveland Indian killed by a pitch.
I wanted to give him flesh and bones. I wanted people, when they read about him, to know that he was more than a baseball player. He loved to sing. He hung out with Al Jolson in New York. All the kids loved him. He was maybe the Derek Jeter of his time.
Many current players, like Sean Green, have had letters published by Swirsky.
This is the one, do you remember right? Yeah.
Swirsky also collects unique baseball memorabilia. A ball signed by all 4 Beatles at their 1965 Shea Stadium concert. Hall of Famer Lefty Grove's vanity plate. The last ball ever used at the Polo Grounds in 1957. Baseball Commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis's letter denying Shoeless Joe Jackson's reinstatement after the 1919 Black Sox scandal. And Reggie Jackson's 3rd home run ball from World Series Game 6 in 1977.
When he hit 3, matching Babe Ruth's record of 3 in a World Series game, that's when he started getting called Mr. October. So to me, my collection is about the essence of the player.
But one of Swirsky's most prized possessions is from right here at Shea Stadium, and just over my right shoulder, in fact. It's the ball from the 1986 World Series that Mookie Wilson hit by Bill Buckner at first base. Swirsky owns the ball.
The Mets were so jubilant in the clubhouse later that they kissed the ball, and you could see some tobacco stains, and the X marks the spot. This is the umpire at the time. Put an X right there.
Champagne the Red Sox left on ice in '86, another Swirsky collectible. But the letters are his passion. Dodger catcher Paul Aduca remembering his devoted mother Lucy, who died of cancer shortly before he reached the majors.
But I'm going to get you a copy of the book signed and everything.
Okay, can you, yeah, please.
It's tremendous, you know, you write to somebody and then they respond, you know, you're having a human connection with somebody, and then to see their reaction when they actually see it in a book. These are just people, you know, that can hit baseballs 350 feet, you know, but they're real good people.
Joey Waller, thank you. That's a terrific story, and you could really tell the passion that he feels for it when he really decided to take this book outside the sports realm and go to people like the former presidents, Bush and the current one as well, and to hear them talk about their love for baseball, and then how he weaves the whole father-son, mother-son, just the whole family atmosphere of what baseball means, and then to see some of those pieces of memorabilia. He has my favorite one by far, the Red Sox champagne bottle that said World Champions.
I never knew that there was an X on that baseball, though, that got by Bill Buckner at first base. But the one thing that struck me was the fact that we so rarely write letters anymore. I mean, writing letters is such a lost art with email and everything. It's so easy to reply and get in touch via email that I don't know that we'll see these kinds of things anymore. I mean, some of the letters that he has that are even of historical significance, we may not see those kinds of things anymore. But people that take, I'm surprised also that so many people, including Paul McCartney and President Bush, took the time to sit down and write a letter with such heartfelt emotions and did that.
Well, that's what baseball means to a lot of people. And by the way, that cut fastball George Bush said he was going to throw, neither cut nor a fastball.
What was it?
It was a lob ball.
Welcome back to New York Close-Up. Joining us now, the songwriter Seth Swirsky. His love of baseball has led him to write and edit 3 books, the latest, Something to Write Home About. What were the letters that you wrote that prompted these replies?
Well, I would find out certain things about people. I saw Paul McCartney on TV, and he was dancing and singing to one of the Beatles' great hits at a Yankee game, and I just wrote him a letter and asked him if he likes to hear Beatles songs at games, and lo and behold, 3 days later, I got a FedEx from London with a whole letter from Paul McCartney, Dear Seth. I mean, just that alone, you know, because he's my great idol. And I find that baseball relaxes people enough to them wanting to go deeper into their family histories. So the president started talking about remembering his father's throws to him, and don't we all kind of remember that?
Were the replies in part because you are a person of some prominence, people can place you, people know you by name, people know who you are, or was it the love of baseball, the memories of baseball, the something to write home about that evoked these kind of responses?
I think it was the latter. Baseball connects us. You know, very few things connect us. War connects us. If you take the table of contents of this book and you put all those people into the room, I don't know that they'd have a whole lot to talk about. They all seem to have a story about baseball.
That's right. They would have, in many respects, very little in common, I'm sure, but baseball is the one thread that ties them together.
Yeah.
What's the thread that ties the letters together? When people sit down and read the entire book, if they sit in one reading, what do they walk away with?
Well, there are so many incredible life stories in this book. There's a catcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers, Paul LaDuca, and I just asked him how he became such a good catcher. A simple question. He wrote a letter back about his mother, who used to stop work at 2 o'clock in the afternoon to throw him baseball after baseball. In his own handwriting, you see everything in the blue ink that it was written in. I found a picture of him and his mother, one of the only ones that exists with him in a baseball uniform. His mother died before he became a major league player, and he writes, I know every time I go out on the field that Lucy LaDuca and the Lord bleed Dodger blue.
Were there people you wrote to who didn't answer?
Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister at the time. I asked him what it was like to see Reggie Jackson hit a baseball in high school, because Netanyahu went to high school with Reggie Jackson in the 60s. So it's kind of that offbeat thing as well.
Were there any you couldn't read? Their handwriting was so bad?
Well, the President George W. Bush, writes in a thick black Sharpie. It's very readable. But it takes you a second. What I like about the art of writing letters is that you have to really think about what you say. You know, when you get a letter from somebody, it is very concise. It really gets to the heart of what a person really wants to say. I wanted people to see the actual letters, to take me out of it in a way, so they're being spoken to by the letters themselves.
And in a way, there's a formality to it that doesn't transcend email, I think, as well.
When you see a person's handwriting, you're feeling their presence, and that's why the letters are reprinted in blue ink as they wrote them. If it was red ink, it's red ink. I mean, I wanted people to see, if there's a smudge on the paper, that's what it is.
Seth, you came from New York, you now live in California, you have 2 young sons. Why your interest in baseball, and why has it endured so much?
Well, I love my father very deeply, and I remember going to baseball games with him as a 7- and 8-year-old, and that is being reflected in my life right now, taking my 8-year-old Julian, and not my 8-month-old Luke yet, but I love the conversations I have with my son at a game. You know, I just think that baseball does that for you.